All right, everyone. Today I wanted to give you guys some very important information as well as some tips to avoid wasting valuable resources with cards and card decks. And when I say valuable resources, I'm talking about number one, of course, which is going to be your card experience points, but also number two, your duplicate cards. And there's a very certain way that you actually want to go about working on your cards and your card decks in Lost Ark to end up avoiding the situation where you end up burning a bunch of valuable resources and you kind of get stuck, and now you feel like there's nothing you can really do and you just wasted a bunch of resources. And this is a whole situation that you can end up avoiding by working on your cards a very particular way. So let's get into it here and let's talk about it. And let's talk about a very easy mistake here. The first thing that I want to talk about, and that is, don't end up feeding your card experience until you actually already have a duplicate of the card ready to go. And just so you guys can see as an example here, let me pull up this card. This is a good card, don't get me wrong. This is going to be a card that you would definitely want to consider working on, and we'll talk more about this in a few minutes. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the thing is, and I'm just using this as an example here, what you don't want to do is you don't want to end up feeding a card experience if you don't have a duplicate ready, because all you're just going to end up doing is burning a bunch of your card XP enhancement points, and you're just going to fill up its experience bar, but now there's nothing you can do. You've hit a very fast wall here that you're not going to have improved your card really. It's just going to have a full experience bar, but until you get a copy of the card ready to awaken it and get it its first awakening level, you just basically wasted that experience. And so what you want to do is get in the habit of doing it the other way around. So instead of feeding your card experience and then end up going and hunting a duplicate card to awaken it, wait until you actually have a duplicate of the card already. And then when you have a duplicate of the card, you want to feed it experience and then awaken it. You basically want to have everything ready to actually awaken the card, good to go, before you even start the process here, to avoid hitting this wall of now having to feel like you need to go and hunt a duplicate. Now, another important thing that I will mention here is don't just end up working on every single card that you end up getting duplicates of, because even still, you're not going to end up having enough card experience. So you really need to ask yourself the question, is this card even worth working on? And there's two factors to really bring into question here. And number one, and the most important one, is what card decks is that card going to be a part of? And if it's a part of a card deck, is it even a good card deck that is worth going for? And you can actually take a look at your cards. You can hover over them, and you can see that, like, this card, for example, is not actually a part of a card deck. But if you hover over this one right here, you can see the equipped card set bonus, Desert of Sky. You can see that this card is actually a part of a card deck. So if you actually want to work on it, like if I wanted to awaken this card, first of all, is it a part of a card deck? It is. Second of all, do I actually have the duplicate of this card ready to awaken it before even feeding it experience? I do. So now if I wanted to, I could feed it its experience and I could actually get it its first awakening because I already have a duplicate ready to go. If I didn't have a duplicate, I wouldn't even want to feed it experience yet because there's nothing that I could do if I got to a full experience bar. And now the next thing that you would want to ask is it a part of a good card deck? So we know that this is a part of the, what was it again? It was that Salt Giant card. This is just for an example here. This is a part of the Desert of Sky card deck. So now let's go to Desert of Sky here, and we can see the actual set effect right here and what it's going to do. And it's very important to actually see what the set effect is, but also distinguish what the difference is between the actual set effects and the awakening level bonus. So if I actually complete this set here, you can see what it's going to do is it's going to end up giving me a 8% earth damage reduction. Now, the other effects here are not actually going to activate until I end up getting awakening levels. And it's a card deck of 6, and the earth damage reduction of 9% isn't actually going to activate until I get 18 total awakening levels, which is an average of 3 levels for every single one of these cards. So you can see you need to go from just having one copy of each of these cards to now needing a ton of duplicates in order to get those 18 awakening levels. So there's a massive jump in difficulty from acquiring the actual card set to acquiring the awakening levels. And you need to really be careful of that, because a lot of card decks don't actually gain their incredibly good effects until you actually gain their awakening levels. And then, of course, the very last one here, 30-piece awakening, which means that you would need all your cards at +5 fully awakened, and that's going to require an insane amount of duplicates. personal and party fire damage on foe plus 1%. So probably not something that I want to spend a ton of resources on compared to something that is going to be worth spending resources on, which is actually a card deck that I'm working on, and I already have a video talking about this one more in detail, which is like the We'll Meet Again set. Now this one, for example, is one where if you do end up getting the cards for this, they are going to be worth working on, because you could see, first of all, it only actually requires 3 cards in order to gain this set effect. So instead of needing 6 individual pieces, you only actually need 3, 2 rares and an epic. And you can see what this actually does is it's minus 12% damage from foes at 50% or lower HP. That's for just completing the set right there. And then you have a 9-piece awakening and a 15-piece awakening. Because there's only 3 pieces for the set, you can't get 30 awakening levels. You can only get a 15 awakening level maximum, which you're still probably not going to end up getting. But you could see that the 9 awakening is going to increase that damage reduction to minus 16% for foes at 15% or lower. And then the 15-piece awakening is going to restore your HP for 5 seconds when attacked while HP is below 20%. Probably won't get to that point before you move on to a better card set, but you can see that this is definitely a card deck that is going to be worth investing at least some resources into, which is why I'm working on some of these cards. Now let's bring up this card right here, because this is an example of a mistake that I actually made that I don't want you guys to make. And speaking of working on those awakening levels, is remember what I said, where you don't actually want to invest card experience until you actually have a duplicate of the card ready to go in order to awaken it. And you can see that I've already awakened my Vrad to 1 awakening level. And I do actually have another duplicate. That's the icon there for a duplicate of Vrad. So I do have a duplicate, but the problem is, as you actually increase the awakening levels, it's going to require more and more duplicates. So now that principle of making sure you have enough duplicates in order to awaken the card before you start feeding it experience, now you need to be even more mindful as you get higher and higher awakening levels, because instead of just needing 1 duplicate for the second awakening level, you actually need 2 duplicates. So if I wanted to actually do this card the right way, what I would do is I would actually keep it at no experience here, and I would wait until I actually get another duplicate, because as you can see, I've already actually filled this guy's experience here, and I've invested those resources, but because I'm still short 1 of the duplicate cards, I can't actually awaken it. So there was really no reason for me at all to end up filling his experience here until I get that second second copy in order to awaken it. And as you get more and more awakening levels, you just want to be careful with this principle that you follow more, and just make sure that you have all of the required identical copies before you actually end up feeding experience and awakening to end up preserving this valuable resource here, those card experience points, because you just don't want to go around and start feeding all your cards experience without really knowing too much about it, because these card experience points, they don't accumulate very quickly. It's a very slow and steady grind in order to get these, and it's going to be enough, like you'll get enough of these card experience points to work on the cards that you need. You just need to be a little bit careful on actually how you allocate these resources here. The other thing that I will say as a little bit of a warning here to kind of end off this video is make sure that you guys are mindful of how many cards you have in your card catalog here, and make sure that this doesn't get to the maximum number. If it does, if it's getting closer, you can see that I have 95 out of 120. Just make sure that you actually expand the amount of card slots that you have, because if you end up using cards when your card catalog is full, it might just end up automatically converting them to experience instead, and that would be tragic if you end up using a really good card when your actually card catalog is already full. So just make sure you're mindful of that. If that means holding onto your card decks for a little bit, that's fine. If it means expanding your card catalog, that's also fine, but just a little tip that I would throw in there at the end, just to kind of tie this video together. So I hope that this info helped out. I really do. Thank you guys for watching, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did and you liked this video and these tips helped out, consider leaving a quick like. Consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And feel free to check out the Twitch stream, where I'll be streaming Lost Ark as well as other games. Thanks again, everyone. Take care, and until next time.